I would like to warmly welcome you to the second session today, Digital Transformation of the Real Estate Sector. This sector is very crucial but also confusing and problematic in another sense. And I'm a bit concerned, will we suffer from a bubble or a recession or a development? Allow me to introduce the panelists. Give me great pleasure to introduce Ms. May Abdel Hamid, and she is the representative of the Minister of Housing today, and I'm very happy to have her on a personal and professional levels. I appreciate her so much, and she's the executive director for the Mortgage Finance Fund, and previously she was the chair person of the House Public of the public housing entity, and she is an international certified trainer by the Egyptian and American authorities. She has many certificates in banking, credit risk assessment, among other things. Also, we are happy to introduce Dr. Khaled Derbala. He has a long CV, and he is a main partner with us in all the digitization workshops since day one. And he is expert on title registration on real estate sector. It's his own baby. I don't know why the baby is not becoming an adult, but anyway, he is an expert in IT. He has worked for different projects with the government, like working on soil mechanics, geotechnical database. He also worked on having a database for the real estate database of the slums. Manshit Nasser as a model. He also helped in the new real estate tax declaration system. I would like to warmly welcome both of you. We moderate this session usually in a certain way. We start with the government. We give the government the floor to know more about the achievements, and then we go to the other party, people on real ground, in order to find the gap that needs to be bridged. This is the main objective here, because we cannot consider digitization as automation. This is different. We need to think, otherwise we will fall into the trap of thinking of only automation. Before delving into the details of digitization and all these technical details, I want to focus on the importance of digitization. I represent the Ministry of Housing, but I cannot represent all the sectors. I can only speak for my department, which is public housing and the mortgage finance. This is one of the main services, because the ministry is an executor and a regulatory. The ministry is trying to help people with limited income whom the private sector cannot help, because we want to solve the issue of the slum areas. So we want to provide people with decent residential units with affordable prices, because previously we did not have enough supply. The requirements and conditions were not strict enough. That's why the ministry thought that here its role should be highlighted in order to serve the people who need the residential units. We need to verify that they really need this, they need help with financing. We are working on a number of projects for other groups other than people with low income, but I will focus on public housing for low income people, and we define this low income people in line with the income and expenses reports issued every day. We set the maximum for single people, for the household, and we have certain specifications like 90 square meters, fully finished, three rooms. Previously, we had smaller units, and the finishing was not that good. Also, we usually served or provided people with units in far areas, but now we are working to change that because we want to move people to a better life. We want people to change their lives in the slum. And sorry, Dr. Abla, I think that the media is not focusing on our role, neither the think tanks. So we have been working really hard to deliver this service for those who deserve it. So since the start of the program, I think in 2014, I've been working since ages in this sector, but this program gained a momentum in 2014. We had residential units. First, we did not have a mortgage financing mechanism, and this is very crucial for the people because this is the way you can cover the problem. But people like middle income people or low income people cannot pay on 2 or 3 years. And at the end of the day, we wanted to have a product available for the people, a decent residential unit in a good place. Today, we have built 700,000 residential units. This number was expected to be done in years, and this costs around 150 billions EGPs. Yeah, of course, that might be more, be less, that's okay. You also refer to the bubble and the fact that you are a bit worried and concerned. We are building based on the demand. Previously, the planning was random, but for 3 rounds we issue the units, and then we get even more demands. That's why I build or I delay building. The demand is there, I assure you. The buzzword, the bubble or the recession or the slowing pace, maybe because you are building for people who want to buy just to invest, because in Egypt, if you want to store the value of your money, you buy real estate. And of course, we need to observe this. We need to take all the client points of view. We need to study the developers' attitudes, but this is parallel to what we do. We work with developers to set regulations to control the sector because the framework is not strict enough compared to other countries. Developers get the money they need from their clients. And with the flotation and with the ever increasing prices of real estate sectors, developers are increasing the credit period. And remember, they are not banks. So if people will pay on 7 years, on 10 years, on 15 years, let me tell you that might be risky. We are in dialogue, and this is under the auspices of the Prime Minister. We meet developers twice a month in order to have a common vision and to be in line with other countries. We will form something like a union of developers because many intruders are there. Of course, not everyone will like that. This union will issue like a model contract and will have a ranking and the classification for developers, the size of their project according to their experience, track record, their solvency or lack of. how do we work on providing units for low-income people? We issue an announcement, we get applications or requests, we build, and then we deliver after 2 years. Of course, this is supported by the state, and I will discuss this later. The client apply, and we have an income criteria that is in proportion to the residential unit, but still people need support, need cash support, and need subsidy for paying the interest. So this is totally different from being a for-profit developer. We are helping people who need a shelter. So we issued 60,000 units, and 220,000 people applied and submitted. The filtration is hard, and we are working with the mortgage financing sector since 2014, but for this department we wouldn't have had this program, and we worked with the CBE in order to have the infrastructure in place. I know you're looking at me and you want to ask me about title and deed registration, but here what I'm focusing is having banks to finance, because we had people that can pay over 20 years. Now this is not the case. It was important to engage the banks in financing. And of course, we need to build the capacities of the banks and the financing institutions, because of the nature of the client we are targeting. These people are unbanked. The 50,000 persons are or most of them are unbanked. 50 or 70% of them are unbanked. They have never been to a bank, they have never opened a bank account. But my job is to tackle all these challenges. We started with 3 banks. All the banks had suspicions, because these are not the people whom they usually deal with. They wanted to have good margins, they wanted to have enough interests. Of course, they collect premiums over 20 years. The size of the loan is not that big, so the effort for 1 million loan is the same as 90,000 EGP. But I think the program proved successful. Defaulting is very limited, and many banks were engaged to come. I'm working now with 20 banks and 7 companies for mortgage financing. Why I'm telling you all these details? Because the workflow is working, but it's hard and complicated, and I need to build linkages with many people. I did not want to build an entity that is based on a long database of employees, because this brings corruption. Of course you understand what I'm referring to. So I was really aware that we needed to build a fully automated system, bringing together all the stakeholders. Of course, the bank people come to me to apply. I investigate on real grounds, do they deserve that kind of financing? If they do deserve, then I refer the case to the bank. Each bank is assigned a certain number of projects. I tell them the amount of the loan, the amount of the cash support, and then the bank also studies the I-score or other factors. If it's accepted, then I electronically assign this unit to the person after the credit study. I have also many companies working with me, and I have 1 million applicants. So we could investigate 350,000 study. They study these people in 2 visits, and then they post all the information they got online. I will take you backwards when we start the announcements. we did not have the infrastructure, so people had to send everything via the post. These envelopes are directed to the cap mass. Everything is documented. I can show you pictures of this. And then the cap mass will open the envelopes, verify the paper, see if these people meet the criteria, and then they filter the people and send me only those who deserve it. And this might take from 6 to 8 months. So people might apply now and wait for 1 year or something, because the filtration process or the workflow is very demanding. And this is a legacy, because you cannot just throw yourself into the sea without learning how to swim. That's why I had to try all the process and understand the gaps very well. So I said, with the limited number of staff I have, then I need to digitize everything to make the system efficient, whether in my organization or in the other organizations like the post office or in the banks. I don't want people to come to me in person. I want people to log in a portal, to log in to know if they can afford the loan or not, so they need a loan calculator. I want people to decide themselves if they meet the criteria or not. So we started with a web portal. I will not read the vision and the mission. I will skip all these details. But again, we want to be a digital service provider. Of course, we will start with the citizens. That's why we designed a website or a portal. People can apply and they fill in a form, they scan all the required documents, they send it, and then they can enter their ID, national ID number, and know the status of their request or application. And the traffic was very limited, but today it's 10 million people, visitors. Some people visit, some register, some apply. Of course, we have a call center. I don't want to expand in that, but culturally speaking, people want to meet people, people want to speak to people, but we keep this to the minimum, and gradually we will nullify this customer service departments, and we'll only do it online or over the phone. We contract with e-finance, we train them and we audit them, and people are answered more than 6 million phone calls. The service rate is 93% now. Of course, we started small and we faced many issues and problems, but then things picked up, and I think it's now up to the expectations. We also have an SMS service. You can send a message with your national ID, and then you can know or inquire about the status of your residential unit. It's also available online, but we deal with different people coming from different educational and cultural backgrounds. So some people prefer the SMS service, some people prefer the online, some people prefer to call people, and some people want to meet people in person to know about the status of their application. I work with the financing agencies. I have 27 financing agencies. Each get a screen with the user name, and then they load all the documents, they approve it, and then they upload the financing contract, and I have a lot to monitor and verify. Also, I have a link to the housing bank. And one of the criteria is that these people shouldn't have had a flat before. If they have had a flat before, even after receiving or after paying some money, we will reject this application based on this reason. Also, we have customer service people to guide the citizens to answer their inquiries, whether via telephone or in person. Also, many companies are helping me collect data. Each company is assigned a number of people to investigate their cases, and of course, we keep the confidentiality of data. We work with the post authority because people have to send the deposit via the post, and they need to keep it as is, and I need to have a list of the number of people, names and amounts paid, and whether some withdrew or not. Of course, the state is working on the FRA, or Financial Regulatory Authority. We are linked to them. I think since last year they will start their own first project in Port Said in June. We will be there. We will offer all our services electronically in Port Said, and FRA work with the civil register. They have all the data about the incomes, the jobs. So, for example, in Port Said, I know that there are X number of low income people. I can send messages to FRA informing them that we would be building some residential units for these people. I can also ask about the income in order to verify the information sent by the applicants. I can also ask the help of the Ministry of Finance. We double check if they have cars. So sometimes people apply for this while they have a Mercedes car, or their sons and daughters are enrolled in international schools. That's why, of course, we need to verify this in order to make sure that only people who deserve these units get it. To have a very well defined set of criteria in order to be able to rule out people with high consumption or higher incomes. We did so in the Ministry of Supply, and we will redo so in our sector, because we subsidize a lot. I paid 3.7 billion, and 40 billions were paid by the CBE in order to subsidize the interest, and also 72 billion. So this is very big. I'm not saying that people don't deserve that. No, the program is very crucial and it's a paradigm shift. But I need to make sure that this money will reach those who most need it. In order to make sure that the follow-up and the monitoring evaluation system is good, we take certain measures with the Financial Regulatory Authority via the electronic services, and all these services will be available on the new Port Said portal. I need to monitor all the statistics about the age group, the geographical area, the gender. Previously, it was a mess. I don't know how those people got all these units. We did not have a track record, so automation is inevitable and is key. I can get now a report with all the units delivered to people, the amount of subsidy for each citizen. I can get all the averages. I can predict if I need to increase or decrease all the amount. I also have a list of all the rejected applications rejections. Usually it's 15%, and I need to analyze this. Why did we reject these people? Maybe they couldn't send the required documents. Maybe they applied before and got one or more units before, because these analytics are very, very important. Also, I can issue certain operational reports in order to assess the performance of my staff. Did the companies stick to the deadline? Each company has a certain deadline to do all the field visit. Also, the banks have certain deadlines to send me all the credit approvals and start and finalize the contract in 3 weeks. I have a report with all the arrears in order to process everything. In 2014, the average was 20,000 cases, and now it's 10,000 cases. So these reports help me improve my service delivery and achieve my targets, get the money I expect on a monthly basis to build more residential units and meet the increasing demand. I need to also monitor the performance of my staff. What is the hindrances to allocating the interfaces in the website. After delivering the units to the people, I need to make sure, do people live there, or are they closing it or renting it? And we have a unit to follow up on this. I need to get all the delivery meeting minutes, and I send to other entities reports to inquire why did people live there, why didn't people live there. Maybe the place is not livable enough, or the place needs more transportation, or more schools, hospitals. That's why we deal with many stakeholders, and this is equally important. I have a dashboard with all the information, and it's real-time system, the applicants, the registered people, the amount of subsidies. The moment I click on any icon, I can get to know everything about the banks, the daily performance, the number of units allocated. I have daily rates to be monitored. This is there on my mobile phone. I can track it. Also, we have many programs for ticketing systems. If there is a bug, if the file is frozen, of course there are many technical glitches in the systems. E-application is functional since the last two announcements, and people were very resistant. People cannot do it online. Where are we going to host? What about the size? TE data is the host. Of course, I double check the sizing, all the technical tests. I need to make sure that the system will be functional in peak times, and touch wood. Of course, whenever we declare an announcement, I am very worried, but we experienced it 0 times. Everyone could register successfully, but many people do not have a PC. They might have to go to a cyber coffee shop, and I started this pretty small, and the last announcement was much bigger, but we faced no issues in this regard. Here I inspect all the files to identify people who meet the criteria. I also monitor the occupancy rate. As I said, TE data is the host, but I also have a disaster recovery unit, and TE data has a backup system also, and we are working on our own system. and I have milestones to achieve in the coming year and in the year after, in order to complete the system on time. As for property registration or real estate registration, this falls under my control and also outside my control, because they sign the contract and then the bank put it under mortgage. We are trying to facilitate everything to make the registration process easier, because this is the only collateral the bank gets. If I fail to do so, then banks will take a step back, and this is what we are working on. We want to register all of the units we deliver, and the banks are doing well. Not up to my expectations, but I think numbers are increasing. Also, we had a new law in the urban communities for residential units registration. We will issue something like a notary public in each department, and I only sell a unit, and the citizen or citizens themselves have to register this, and the bank is really keen to get the contract authenticated and notarized, and they need to do so as soon as possible and very cheaply. Of course, we face many challenges, setbacks, but we are trying to address the challenges. As you said, now the fees for registration used to be 10, but now it's £100. How can I solve this? Of course, there are many setbacks, and this is normal, and we can and should tackle this. I think this is the gist of the matter. I would like to give the floor for my opponent, if I may, so we can fight together. She's joking, of course. Thank you so much, Ms. May. I really like the performance of the fund, and I rarely thank people for their work. So this is a very positive indicator. We used to speak that Rwanda progressed and developed because there was a genocide targeting men. And I'm happy that May is leading this fund. As you know, half of Egypt population is low income people, so people need this more than anything else. And I hope that you can mainstream this in all the ministries, and of course the Department of Urban Communities is a brilliant one compared to other departments of the Ministry of Housing.